Do you hear my
We're
fan?
on.
Oh, shoot, we're on. Do you hear my fan in the background?
No.
All right, perfect, because it's so hot out here.
It's hot. In Long
right.
Island.
It's Long Island, like Long Island. All right, so what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to, this is episode 4 now of Redemption Stories, and we're pretty dang excited. I think this is the first episode that Elena and I have actually started on time. So big shout out right there, right? Constantly improving. And the premise behind this show is pretty interesting. It's all about taking your pain and turning it into power. So today I'm really excited about like the introduction that we've got geared up for you all. We got something ridiculously cool. I can't wait for us to unveil it. I've got people streaming on Instagram right now, so I'm just letting you guys know, if you're on Instagram, get over to the YouTube channels, get over to my YouTube channel, get over to Elena's YouTube channel. If you go and follow us, that's where you're going to see the comments happening and popping off. That's where there's going to be engagement. That's what we're going to be paying attention to. That's where our eyeballs are. That's where you want to be. All right. So without further ado, I'm going to let Elena introduce herself a little bit, and then I want to do the thing. I'm going to click the button. Elena,
what's going on, everyone? My name is Elena Tang, and Marlon and I have been just really appreciative and excited for this podcast. Every single week, we're always talking about how we could help people add more value and just continue to listen to people's stories and turn their pain into superpowers. So thank you for joining us.
All right, so Elena, can I click the button now?
Please, yeah.
All right, we are so hyped about this. So we're gonna let the podcast introduction begin. Take a look at this, and then we're gonna break down exactly what this is before we get into the meat and potatoes. How freaking cool!
So amazing.
That is so insane.
What was your reaction when you first saw it, though? I'm curious.
You saw my reaction, like in our group. I was just like, yo! Like, I was, honestly, Elena, like, when we had gotten it, when it came back to us, I saw the text message saying, hey, look, Elena's really excited about this intro video. You need to go take a look at it. And I'm like, yeah, I'll take a look at it in a little bit. I'm doing my thing. I'm doing stuff. Right? No. You really need to go look at this right now. Yeah, I'll go look at it. And then, like, I see you getting inside there and you're talking about it. I'm like, all right, what the heck's going on?
I was like, bro, hurry up.
Yo, Elena, you guys, email, I'm over here, like, they're like, I sent the email. I'm like, where is it? And like, oh, your Gmail. I'm like, oh, well, I never look at that. I open it up and I was just like, did we just join the Avengers? We just joined the freaking Avengers.
Huge shout out to Marco Rivera, my branding manager. Now, I mean, I don't know if he's officially yours yet, but definitely Marco Rivera, my branding manager. Shout out to him. Just incredible. DM me if you want his information. He will help you level up everything in your business. Yes.
Facts.
Yeah, I plopped my kids in front of the TV and I was like, I just need to do a little bit of work. Marco texted me. He was like, check this out. I was screaming. And my kids were like, what are you screaming about? I was like, check this out. I was like, oh, it's like, it was so amazing.
It was so freaking cool. Like, so I loved it. I was like, this is the greatest thing ever.
Yeah.
So freaking rad. So good. I want people to like know, if you're interested in working with Marco, hit up Elena, go and connect with him. Like, he is busy. She is your shortcut to like bypassing all the nonsense, all the lines. Like, go and plug in. But Elena, we get to talk about our favorite topic in here right now, which I'm super stoked, right? Because we've been hanging out all week. We've been a part of the Time to Thrive Challenge with Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi. And how freaking epic is it that we're able to tap into such high-level entrepreneurs, not just entrepreneurs, but also just high-level individuals, high-level coaches who are giving away their knowledge for free.
Yeah.
For free. Like insane. Like the amount of time, I mean, the value that we've been receiving all week. Like you and I have been geeking out, like just back and forth. Like, oh my gosh. Like, do you know how long it would have taken us to learn this stuff? Insane. So today, what we want to do with this episode is actually do a little bit of a breakdown of some of the things that Elena and I have been really learning throughout this week. Share this knowledge because what we're seeing is we're seeing a shift in the marketplace. And it's not just a shift in the marketplace. I also want to acknowledge that this is a shift in just humanity at this moment in time, right? We've had different times where we've had the Industrial Revolution, right? We're now in a new age. We're in the age of information. We've been in the age of information since I would say probably about like the early 2000s with the .com boom. However, our traditional infrastructure, our schooling, our education system hadn't quite made the change. And if we look through history, we actually see this is a repeating pattern. When times change, it takes the infrastructure a bit of time to catch up. So last year we had COVID-19, and for a lot of people, it was a very unfortunate situation. But for others, it was something that propelled their futures forward quite drastically. And what I would say a benefit that came from COVID-19 was it forced the acceleration of everybody moving into the age of information, of everybody moving into this age of self-education, of we're now seeing, this was really cool, Elena. I know you weren't here for this because you don't wake up at 4 a.m. like I do because I'm crazy. But in our morning mindset coffee group this week, we were talking, and Yatang, she actually said one of the biggest takeaways I've been having this week was, you know, I looked at taxi cabs and how Uber has replaced taxi cabs. I look at how the new largest hotel company is a company that doesn't even own any real estate. It's Airbnb. But now we're watching the toppling of the traditional higher education system. Colleges, right? The new Uber of colleges is self-education. And we're learning from people that do it the best. And the way they're teaching it, and this is what I think is so freaking cool, is they're teaching it based off of what we talk about here, where you turn your pain into a power. You turn your mess into a message. So I'm looking forward to diving into it today. I mean, I got my notebook because I've been taking notes like crazy, like a mad.
Got mine too.
Oh, let's go. So, you know, where I really want to start off today, if it's cool, unless, is there anything, Elena, because I can, you know how I get on these topics.
No, you roll, bro.
Okay, perfect. Because I could talk forever. And guys, again, if you're on Instagram, come over to the YouTube page. Come over to the Facebook page, right? Come over to the YouTube. Come over to the Facebook. Come hang out in the comments. So earlier today, Rachel Miller came on. Rachel Miller, honestly, I got to be honest, Elena, I never heard of Rachel Miller before today.
Neither have I.
Not even once. And her energy was so contagious. I couldn't help but pay attention, right? She's on this stage and she's speaking. And she actually said something that I want to highlight here. She says that we're not meant to survive. We're meant to thrive. Right? And so often we find ourselves in a place of survival. She was talking about her story that she was in a situation where friends had invited her out to go bowling. You know, what should have been just, you know, a fun night, maybe $40 to go out and to go enjoy herself. And she's like, look, at the place I was in life, I was so strapped for cash, I couldn't even say yes to them, although I wanted to go, although I could possibly use that release, right? Raising 6 kids and juggling life, I can use a fun night out, but I can't because it's so stressful. Right? How many of us know exactly what that feels like to think like there's things I want to do, right? There's still times where I think like there are things I want to do. However, I haven't gotten there yet. And, you know, I'm making decisions based off of survival, not off of thriving, right? Understanding that place of survival that you're in, you're going through it for a reason. However, you're not meant to stay there. And I thought that was just so interesting because it's a reminder that although now we see what she's doing, we see the level that she's at, we're hearing how they're able to make sales and she's making millions and she has millions of followers on social media across multiple platforms, that it started from a place of, I can't even afford to go out on the weekend. right? Like, Elena, how many people do we talk to that, this is a commonplace, that their starting point, they think there's something wrong with them because their starting point is essentially, look, I got nothing.
Yeah, so many.
It's insane. And I want people to understand that that starting point is actually exactly where you should be, right? That's where you're at, is where you should be. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? You're in the right place at the right time. If you're on this call right now, if you're listening to something like this, there was a reason you were being called to this, right? There's something inside of you that ultimately needs to be woken up. And Elena, I really want to mention this, right? Because this was super cool to me. It was Matt. I believe it was Matthew. It was either Matthew or still Rachel. I think it was Matthew. So Matthew McConaughey.
Hmm.
He mentioned something. I think it was Rachel actually. She mentioned something that, sometimes we feel like, but my story isn't valid, right? Like my pain point isn't valid. What I'm going through, like you don't get it. Like Tony Robbins, like he had to move around all the time. Dean Graziosi, his parents were constantly getting married and divorced. Matthew McConaughey, his father died. Like my story's not that bad. Nobody died in my story. I just need to suck it up. I just need to suck it up because it's not that big a deal. How many people discount their own story?
Everyone. A lot of people do.
Right? A lot of us. We discount. Can I be honest with you, Elena? I discounted my story. I discounted the fact that I grew up. So for anyone who doesn't know me, I grew up I'm in the house I grew up in right now. I'm actually home in New York for a few more days. And I grew up in a pretty middle-class neck of the woods, right? We never really wanted for anything. Like nobody starves in my story, right? Nobody dies in my story. However, I grew up in this place where, for me, my biggest worry was just having an average, mediocre life. It wasn't like I was worried about like where's the next meal going to come from, like that. I just can't say that was my story. However, there's a lot of people moving through life in this silent desperation that I found myself in, just thinking, is this it? But because intellectually I knew my life was pretty dang good, I was too scared to say anything about it because I didn't want to be perceived as a complainer, as a whiner. When on the inside, I was miserable. Like I really wasn't enjoying the status quo. I didn't create this. I didn't vote for this. And it's funny because now that I start sharing that, I actually find that people resonate with that. That there's a whole group of people that I looked at and assumed that they had it all figured out, that they were okay, that they didn't need any help, are raising their hand saying, wow, me too. Me too.
Yeah. And this is, we've talked about, this is precisely why we wanted to create this podcast, right? It's everyone loves the after story. Everyone loves the success stories. The people who succeed love to share their success stories. I get that, right? But at the same time, the reason why we wanted to emphasize and focus on the pain is it's bringing those people that have succeeded and bringing them down to a place of humanity so that more people can resonate and connect with them. Right? That is what is one of the most important and crucial pieces of why we created this podcast, right? Is then it allows kind of the commoner, the person that wants to become like that, to say, oh wow, like I connect with parts of their story and they're here and I want to be there. And so it's like I can do it too, right? And then it's like, and then this whole week with the Time to Thrive challenge, it's like they're breaking it down to the point where it's like, here is a formula that they have done for, cumulatively between Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi, it's like over, I don't know how many years, like 65 years, they said, cumulatively.
65 years between the two of them.
They're just speeding up all of our processes. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of interject that real quick, but
I love that. I love that. So I'm gonna go through some notes here because I wrote these notes. I want people to understand, like, when you're getting knowledge, and I would suggest that if you're home watching this right now, this be one of the episodes that you actually grab a notebook, you grab a pen, because we're gonna be sharing with you. I understand not everybody was fortunate enough to be able to make it to the Thrive Challenge live in real time. It was in the middle of the workday. You had kids to take care of. You had things going on. However, if you're here right now, I want you to be here right now. For the next 60 minutes, I want you to be here right now. Be fully present, as if we charged you a $10,000 entry fee. See, I want you to frame your mind and recognize that if you start to change the perspective of what you're gathering, you're going to gather a lot more from it. So let's go through this right here. When we look at redemption stories, we're always talking about how can we turn our pain into a superpower. And I want you to understand, I want people to understand this, and this was something Matthew McConaughey said. It's so important that you personalize your story, you personalize your pain. Because what happens is it possible for somebody else to see themselves in your story? How many of us have ever seen ourselves inside of somebody else's story? How many times have you ever watched a movie and you resonated with the main character, with the protagonist?
All the time.
Right? It happens to all of us. So it's important that we recognize and we don't discount our pain, that we recognize that, hey, it's a part of our person, right? And we make it personal. We share it. We share that because it can be a bridge for somebody else. It's so important. Like when I heard him say that, I was like, wow, really, somebody like Matthew McConaughey, he understands the celebrity that he has. He understands his position that he's earned in society based off of his work. And even with that, he still comes to a very human level that we're all able to connect because of his pains, because of his low points. See, I can't connect with what it's like to be a world-renowned international celebrity. Not yet. I don't know what that feels like yet. I being honest. However, when he said, look, I was in college and I kind of got to that point where after the first 2 years, I can't really get away with this liberal arts thing, and I got to make a decision. I got to tell my parents, I got to tell people in the community where I'm going and what I'm doing, and I really didn't have an answer for them. I had this gut-wrenching feeling of, everyone's telling me law school, but I had this gut-wrenching feeling that wouldn't be for me, and that's a pain. See, like I want people to look at that right there is a pain. Society is telling you to go one way, but inside you feel like your own person. You feel like you hear a different tune, and you're wanting to march to that beat, but you're afraid of looking silly. In fact, you do look silly when you start marching to it. Don't discount that, because some of you have committed to that march. The only thing is you're marching in silence, and because you're marching in silence, there's somebody else out there who's afraid to start moving because they haven't seen you yet.
And I think more so than not, more people have listened to their parents. And again, this is not a bad thing, right? Our parents know what they know and they don't know what they don't know. So they try to guide us in a certain way, right? So our parents are saying, go get this type of job, go get this type of job, right? And then a lot of people, they're like, okay, well, they look at the sort of traditional routes of employment and they do that, right? They get a high paying job. Oh, and then it's like, well, you got all of your benefits and your whatever 6 figure income or all that bonuses, all that stuff. And then it's like, there's a little bit of you that just doesn't feel like you're fully alive. And it's not necessarily just about the job in and of itself, but it's like, you knew that you were meant for something a little bit bigger. And I'm not even knocking on people that have W-2s, but yes, Marlon is international. That it's about trying to find out, like, what is that internal struggle and conflict, right? It's like, I mean, when you talk about pain, there's like the pain of, it's like he made the decision before he took that road, that path to law school. Matthew McConaughey, he was like, no, this law school pre-law thing is not meant for me. And then he took a chance, right? And it's like, but some people, they're like, I'm not ready to take that chance yet. So they take the other road and then they just kind of get stuck in it. And then they get stuck and they go really, really far out. And then it's like, well, what happened to this one kind of thought or dream that I wanted to do? And then I was too scared to pursue it. It's like, that is the probably the biggest common pain that I think you and I hear a lot. And I'm kind of living in it a little bit, but at the same time, like I my entire studies and my profession is aligned to everything that I want to do, but I'm eventually wanting to step out of my W-2 and to pursue coaching full time, right? So I get that. I get that feeling of like just that it's a little bit of an angst, you know.
Absolutely. And like for example, Elena, I'm going to share a personal story here, right? I always wanted to get up and have this grandiose adventure, right? I always had that, my eye on that sort of person. Like when I would watch the movies, I loved the protagonist that would leave his hometown and would travel across the world and go and defeat the enemies and do all this cool stuff. And eventually at the end of the movie, winds back up in the hometown that he started in, battered up, and just beat up and bruised, and just collapses at his front door. But like he made it. I fell in love with that story, and I always wanted to be that person. And when I started to look at my life, Elena, because I wanted to be that person since I was 10 years old, and I turned 18 years old, and I was like, all right, I'm going to leave and go away to college. Well, I went to community college. Well, when I finish up with my 2 years of community college, then I'll go away. Well, I went to community college in Manhattan and, went back and forth every day. Well, after I'm done with college, I'm going to go get my own place. And then I found out just how much rent in New York was. And then, well, you know what? I'm just going to keep working. I'm going to save up money. And then I got into a relationship. And I found an amazing woman that had 2 kids. But then due to that relationship, the kids couldn't be more than 25 miles away from dad. So I'm just going to figure out how to make it work in New York. And then that relationship ended. And I found myself at the age of 27, 28, just, dude, I thought you wanted to go on the adventure. I thought you were going to go travel the world. I thought you were going to go become this person that saw so many different things and just, figured it out. And I realized how much time had gone by, how many excuses kept coming up, how many rational reasons there were for me to not go ahead and take that leap. And then I decided no more. I made a decision. See, I had to learn how to make a decision. I had to learn how to commit regardless of the result. See, a lot of people are waiting for a guarantee. Right? I can tell you the only way you get a guarantee is to sit your butt. I was going to say a curse word, sit your butt on the couch and do nothing. That's how you get a guarantee. Because you are guaranteed to not get what you want. If you don't,
guaranteed nothing.
You're guaranteed to lose. You're guaranteed to get nothing. You're guaranteed to stay the same if you don't make a change.
Yeah.
So I decided, I circled. In fact, I'm looking at the calendar on my wall over there. I circled a Sunday on that calendar. And it wasn't a Sunday far out. It was a Sunday just maybe about 2 or 3 weeks later. And I said, I'm leaving on that day. I'm leaving on that day. I made a decision. I committed to that decision. I just made it. And now, Elena, I wish I could tell you like everything was worked out peachy perfect afterward. Elena, I made that circle and I forgot about it. I actually started getting back into my old life because this is what happens.
Yeah.
Right? The routine starts to pull us back in. The vortex starts to pull us in. The mediocrity starts to pull us back in. The day-to-day pulls us and sucks us right back in. However, I made a decision that day and I took action. See, I actually circled it. And my calendar is somewhere I have to see it every day. So what starts to happen is the Saturday before the Sunday that I leave, I'm looking at my calendar and I say, holy crap, I'm leaving tomorrow. And because I saw that, and because I had taken that action to stand up and declare that I was leaving in the circle the Sunday, guess what I did? I packed my bags that night.
Whoa.
Loaded up my car. I didn't pack the bags like a week prior. I didn't like do all that preparation work. I packed the night before. And I got into my car and I started making the map on how I was going to get from New York to Arizona. The night before, Elena, I started planning it the night before.
I have a question to ask you, right? Because this is what comes up a lot is people are like, I'm scared to tell my family. I'm scared that my family will judge me. So they stay in these cycles, right? Of like just whatever. And like they fear the judgment of their family and their friends and their high school friends. Like, why? So my question to you is, that process, right? And you're like, you look at the calendar, you're like, this is something that I've been wanting to do night before, and you're like, you just pack up. Did you have a conversation with your family and friends? And what was that like?
Honestly,
Oh, you didn't even.
I told my mom. Obviously,
Okay.
she's the only person I told.
Whoa.
See, here's the thing. I was done looking for the verification and the co-signing from everybody else, because the co-signing. Here's the truth. We all know where to go to get the answer we want to hear, but the answer we need, right? We got to get that internally. We have to get that internal. And Matthew McConaughey said something that really resonated with me. He said, "Are you brave enough to sit down and listen to those thoughts that come to you at 2 a.m. in the morning? Kill off all the distractions. Like, listen to those thoughts that keep coming back to you in the morning when it's you alone with yourself. Are you brave enough to listen to those thoughts and then brave enough to wake up the next morning and to walk in the light with the vision that came to you in the dark?" So that's how I felt about this. I felt that strongly about, you know what, I want this out of my life. See, because just like Matthew said, and this is something that like I teach and I preach and I emphasize, you got to check in with yourself
all the time.
I would be, you know, and like I got something here, right? It's like, would you rather feel uncomfortable or nothing at all? See, for me, I would rather feel uncomfortable. I would rather feel uncomfortable than to have that feeling of, I wish I knew. The what if. I don't want to end up at the end of my life wondering, what if, what would have happened if you had been brave enough? What would you have done differently if you had the time to do it over again? See, why would I wait until the end of my life to make those decisions right now that I can? See, even if it doesn't work out, I'm happy knowing that I took the chance. I'm happy knowing that I went for it. Even if I end up flat on my face, broken and bruised, at least now I know. Now I know what would have happened.
Yeah.
That's something that I want people to understand. It's a process to get there. It's a process. And the process, it looks like this, and this is why we talk about the pain. It's a process of being so freaking fed up of your life, being so fed up of your situation. When people tell me that they are having trouble sticking to their decisions, what I typically tell them is, you haven't hit rock bottom yet.
Yeah, that conviction.
The conviction.
Yeah.
See, you've got to stay in the fire a little bit longer. See, our pain is not meant for us to run away from. It's meant for us to run through. It's a growing process. We've got to learn to appreciate the pain, value the pain, value the discomfort. When we can start to value the discomfort, life starts to take on a whole new meaning. We start to elevate to brand new levels that we didn't know before. Yeah. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
You know, the thought that I had was, we are conditioned to want to feel comfortable, just biologically, and then also from our environment, right? So our parents, they don't necessarily, I think, depending on really mostly how we're raised, I think most parents, and I talk about this a lot, is most parents don't want their children to experience pain. So they're always trying to protect. And my oldest son, he's now 4.5 years old, but he was a climber, and it was super, super like daring, risk taking, just climbed everything. And Kirk and I found ourselves constantly saying, be careful, to the point where he doesn't climb as much anymore. And we're like, oh no, what did we do? Right? We're so aware of it, even though he's only 4.5 years old. And to me, that's a little bit of a metaphor of life, right? Our parents, they mean well. Again, our parents know what they know at the time, and they don't know what they don't know at the time, right? And so our parents, they told us to get these certain jobs and to, don't take too many risks. And a lot of what I thought about had to do with when we did that mindset Zoom with Patty Obi. And she talks about delusion. Remember, you had commented on that too. It's like, this whole week I've been thinking about, you have to be delusional in a good way. Because I think that typically when we hear the word delusional, we think of like, oh, crazy people or whatever. And it's like, but when you think about all of these trailblazers, all of these people that have done incredible things, right? Everyone that created something new and, trending or whatever, right? I mean, even just people historically, Martin Luther King Jr. He created a revolution, right? The civil rights movement. And it's like, but so many people thought you're crazy, right? But he touched on a pain that other people were experiencing because he knew that it was wrong, right? And I'm not going to get into this whole thing, right? But it's like, but it's so many people in history have had in some ways, quote unquote, delusional dreams. And how do we qualify what is delusional, right? And it's like, the delusional is, it's like you yourself think, I have this idea, and you're like, I don't know. And then you share it with other people, and then other people like, I don't think that's a good idea. Like, guess how many people probably said that to all the ideas that are now, the leaders in whatever of our industries, right? Electric car, oh yeah, right. Going to Mars, oh yeah, right. All these things. And so even with Tony Robbins, like I thought about you when Tony Robbins said that he started at age 17. And I'm like, my brother Marlon's, you just turned 29, right?
Yep.
And I'm like, man, when I was 29, I like still didn't really have an idea of like what my true passion was. Right. And it's like Tony Robbins started at 17. And he's been impacting people ever since. And it's like, you kind of think like, what would he know at age 17? But it's like he believed so hard in himself and in his delusion, quote unquote. Like a lot of people probably thought, what the heck can a 17-year-old teach me? And he's like, I don't care. This is what I'm passionate about. This is what I want to do. And now that he's in his, I don't even know how old he is, to be honest, like 17 years old. And so the question that that we want to ask you is like, what is your dream that you feel like is a little bit delusional, but you just can't let go of? Right. And like, that's like, we would like DM me, if you want to talk about it and you don't know exactly how to kind of lean in a little bit more to your pain and lean a little bit more into your delusional dream. Marlon and I would love to hear what that is and maybe help you kind of lean into that a little bit more and sift through some things to see what you can do from it. Because we're all about delusional dreams.
Every stinking day. So every day we have found that, and Elena, like I love what you said. I actually wrote down a note. You sparked something into my mind, right? A question that I want to ask the crowd here. And I want to make sure that when I ask you all this question, right, write this question down. Hold on to this question, right? Because Elena asked you an amazing question, right? Like, what is your delusional dream? What is the thing that you would chase after if you knew that losing wasn't an option? Right? Like, let's just take losing off the table. It's not a possibility anymore. Now, it doesn't matter how long it's going to take. I'm just telling you that eventually you will win. What is it that you would actually begin to go after, knowing that eventually it would be yours? Right? See, the thing is, there's an answer that comes to most of us that we know what that answer is, but we're afraid to admit that we actually want that. We're afraid to admit that that's our true desire. Right? That's something that we've got to work on. Now, the second thing that came to my mind, Elena, and you sparked this, which is, you spoke about how Tony Robbins, from the age of 17 years old, started to really dive into this work. Now, let's look at what caused him to dive into this work. He had come from a place with a broken marriage. He had come from a place of having his mother being physically and emotionally abusive to him. He'd come from a place of having different stepfathers, and the stepfathers, they themselves weren't successful, so they felt like failures as men. So they weren't necessarily projecting that positive role model, male role model trait, because they in themselves were feeling defeated. So they were going through pain, but they did not express the pain in a healthy manner. So it was just manifesting itself as more turmoil in the house. And here's a young Tony soaking all of this up without any real way to process it inside of the home. So he has to seek knowledge and education outside from others. And the only reason he was able to find it was because he was able to bump into a mentor by the name of Jim Rohn, right? Somebody had introduced him to this idea of seminars, and somebody introduced him to this man named Jim Rohn. And when he said, "What's a seminar?" I never heard of that. I mean, we're so freaking lucky now. We get seminars on our laptops. We get seminars on our cell phone. We get seminars on YouTube. Hell, this is something of a seminar right now. So we have access to information that wasn't as readily available. So Tony finds out that a seminar essentially is where a man or a woman comes and they share their life experiences and they condense it down into maybe a few hours or a few days. Well, yeah, like that sounds cool. I could go learn from this other person's they're going to take the entire book of their life and give me the cliff notes of just the best parts. Sign me up. And when he goes, see, I want to highlight something that Tony didn't necessarily highlight. Jim Rohn, his mentor, his first mentor, the first man that he got to listen to, Jim Rohn has a story of his personal pain, of how Jim Rohn was a loser, right? A self-identified loser. By that, he means he was walking around without $1 in his pocket, not sure what to do with himself. And some of us can relate. I know I've had that. I've walked around feeling like a loser. Just being honest, right? In certain areas of my life, I'm extremely confident. And in other areas, yeah, I've absolutely felt like a loser. I've absolutely felt like, man, I can't provide. Wow, like I haven't figured this out yet. Oh, man, my friends, they're starting to get careers and I'm still over here figuring things out. What's wrong with me? And Jim Rohn was somebody like that. He walked around and he didn't have goals. No one had ever taught him how to set goals. No one had ever taught him how to set a destination. No one had ever taught him that he can make something more of himself by conjuring and pulling from what's inside of here, from pulling on that imagination and presenting it on a piece of paper and then working steadily towards it. And that if he trusts the process, he would eventually make it happen, even though there's no proof or evidence of it yet. And so because he learned that, he was able to change his life, go on and teach it to others. He was able to move from his place of pain to a place of power, to a place of not feeling like a loser, to a place of feeling like a great guy, so that he can now help this other man, Tony, right? Now let's look at the connection. Tony, where does he find Tony? Does he find Tony in a place of power? No. He found Tony in a place of pain. See, oftentimes what happens is we begin to think, and this is the limiting belief that we start to place on ourselves. We begin to believe that we need to be in a place of power so that we can get other people there. It's like, well, no. When you get to that place of power, you're going to teach about, the fact that there's a path there. However, it's your pain that gives you permission. It's your pain that lets you grow.
I wanted to. Oh, sorry.
No, I want to
hear. And I think that the thing that I really want to emphasize in that is, if you think about just even kind of going back to your analogy of of sharing the movies, right? The people connect with the stories of pain to triumph. Think about this, right? Because we are so conditioned to not want to go through the pain, and we just want to be like, we're in this pain and in this darkness, and we just want to close our eyes and just get to the riches and get to the top of the mountain and get to everything, right? Everything that we want. We just want to snap our fingers and get there. Everyone wants that, right? But the people that have experienced that actual journey, the sweat, the tears, the blood, the rejections, all of that, they deserve to be at the top, right? And the more that they share that journey and their pain, the more we can recognize that we should go through the fire also, right? Think about this. And the thing that I wanted to emphasize is, who loves a story where it's like, oh, wow, like Bob was born with a silver spoon up his butt and now he's a trillionaire. It's like, who the freak would be like, who would love that story? and be like, whoa, that was cool. Like, I want to be like him. Yeah, everyone wants to, but it's like, that's, unless you want the entitled life, it's not an inspiring story. Right. And it's like, and I challenge the thought that you would actually be a good servant and to serve and to care for people if you had that story. I truly do.
I agree wholeheartedly with you, Elena. And what's really interesting, and I want people to ask themselves this question, because oftentimes we try to ignore and discredit our pain. We try to ignore and discredit the fact that, look, I am starting in the gutter, right? In my own personal subjective gutter, whatever that may look like.
Right.
I got skeletons in my closet. What if your ability to go through that pain, your ability to experience that pain is the reason you can help somebody else?
Absolutely.
See, what if you're the one that's able to make it through? You're the one that's strong enough to make it through so that you can help the person who can't. See, when you start to push that away, you're pushing away your greatest blessing.
Yeah.
So what if the pain you're experiencing was for the betterment of others? Would you feel differently about it? Would you feel more open to sharing it if you knew that sharing the thing that hurt you the most, the thing that you're most insecure about, the thing that you're most afraid to speak about, if you knew that that can help somebody else, would you then feel comfortable to share it? Would not even feel comfortable, but would you? Would you share it? Would you want to learn how? Right? Like, how many would want to know how they can turn their pain into somebody else's process so that they didn't have to experience what you experienced? And even better than that, I gotta just throw this out there, because some people are like, yeah, but what if you were also getting paid to do this? Like, we're keeping it real.
Yeah.
Because when we look at the marketplace, when we look at business, and I want to talk about this mindset as well, because there needs to be a connection here. See, we have this mindset that sales is something terrible, right? In fact, you and I were having this conversation earlier this week that, it's a way we were brought up culturally to believe that sales is something sleazy. Whereas I was taught, not brought up, taught. In other words, this came later in life, that sales is service. That the only reason I ever get to make a sale, the only reason I'm fortunate enough that somebody would ever give me money or give me something in exchange is because I'm providing them with value. Well, my story, my experience, my life experience is valuable to the person who finds themselves in the position that I was in, and they want to know how I got to where I currently am. Your story is the same. Every person listening to this right now, I want you to understand you have a story. You have something that somebody finds valuable.
Yeah.
Right? This is something that somebody would pay for, because ultimately, and I want us to recognize this, ultimately, when you share your story, what you're really doing is you're saving somebody time. You're saving somebody time. See, because pain is inescapable. I'm going to go through another pain down the road. I'm going to keep growing. So I'm going to run into another pain down the road. However, how long I spend in that pain, that's up to me. How quickly I get through it, that's going to be up to me. And really, it's going to be up to finding somebody who's already been through it. You are that somebody for someone else.
Yeah.
We all don't need to go and get. You got it, Elena. Because I like. This is such an interesting and important topic to me.
Yeah.
Because again, like I spent so much of my life being quiet. I spent my life just not opening up.
That's surprising. I'm just kidding.
Some people, it's like, I can't imagine a quiet Marlin.
No, I mean it's a beautiful transformation, right? It's like you're no longer, you're no longer in your shell. I didn't know you before, but it's like that's cool that you share that, right? Because it's like I mean, and then even your origin story when we talked about it in episode 0, it's like your nickname was Moody Marlin. I was like, that's shocking.
It was my high school superlative. It was awful.
Right. And the thing that I wanted to emphasize earlier was I was in because I signed up for the VIP, so I was in the Zoom chat, And I just kept on typing, we need you. We need your story. Like just whoever, because I saw a lot of people that are like, I don't know what to offer. I'm too old. I'm too this. And I just kept on typing, we need your story, like capital NEED. Like, we need your story. We need your story. Because guess what? Like, and in my profession as a social worker and as a therapist, right? Like, the thing that makes me the most sad, and the reason why, I mean, a lot of why I got into this work, right, is even if we think about just suicide, when people reach the point, their lowest of low, and they're that depressed, guess what they feel? They feel alone. They feel like no one else feels their pain. Everyone around them is sharing their success stories and all these things, and it's like, and then it's like everyone thinks, well, I mean, the people that are in those lowest positions, mentally speaking, they think, oh, like I'm a nobody, right? I'm not living those lives that I want to live, right? And it's like, guess what would happen to humanity if more people shared their struggles, even currently speaking, and just saying, hey, I don't have it all figured out yet. I'm going through this right now. Like, my mom's going through cancer. I'm scared, right? And like, I'm pressing into that. I'm not ignoring my feelings. I'm not ignoring her pain. I'm not ignoring my pain. But it's like, if more of us shared that, the power of pain is empathy.
Mm.
That is the greatest superpower that our world can possess, is more empathy, to feel someone else's pain, to have the ability to say, hey, I've been there before. I know how you feel. Right. And then it's like, guess what happens though? The byproduct of that, guess what happens? There's deeper connection to humanity. I no longer feel alone. And that, therein lies the power of humanity, is connecting with one another, connecting with our pain. And it's like, hey, I'm just a little bit ahead of you. I'm not here to preach whatever, right? Like, humbly speaking, it's like, I would love to help you. I'm just a little bit ahead of you. So if you would trust me, right, I would love to serve you and walk you through this process that I've been through and that I've helped others through. And that's the beauty of the pain.
So I like that, Elena. I love that. And I want to keep people inside this framework because I want them as they, first off, Elena, you deliver so much value. Like every time you open up your mouth, every time you get on a Zoom, every time you get on Instagram, every time you make a post, your intention is to give value, and it's felt through the words. So I want to make sure that we do a good job for the people here tonight, right? And we continue to give that value. So a framework that we were taught tonight, that we were taught this whole week, is this story, teach, action framework. And essentially the story is the part we've been speaking about so far here. So if we were looking at this as just 3 steps, and I would write this down, I would take notes, everybody. Story, teach, action. The first part we spoke about here is the story, our pain. Our previous guest and our future guests, you see it when they come on. What do we ask them to do? We first ask them to share their story. Let's dive into your story. Let's dive into your past. Let's uncover what's been going on there. And why are we having them do that? It's for one of 2 reasons. Because next, either they're going to teach us something, or if we're fortunate enough, they allow us to dive into their psyche so that we can begin to teach them. We can begin to extract from that story exactly a process. And I want to show people how they can do this for themselves. So now for the next portion, which is the teach. When we look back through our own pain and we look at our own story, I want us to imagine that I'm holding a magic wand right now. And I can wave this magic wand, and this magic wand is going to send you back to your 20-year-old self. You're going to be able to hang out with your 20-year-old self for an afternoon. Maybe you're a little bit younger, so maybe you're hanging out with your 15-year-old self. Maybe you're a little bit older and you're saying, I'm hanging out with my 25-year-old self. The point is, you're going to get to hang out with a younger version of you. It's only going to be just for one afternoon, however. And that afternoon, you're not going to get a whole lot of time. So what is it that you would teach your younger self, given the opportunity to spend that afternoon with them? right? This is where we start to realize, okay, inside of my story, there's a lesson there. See, I went through something, and at the end of it, maybe it was, look, I got into this partnership, a business partnership, and from that business partnership, I found out this person was greedy. They didn't do their side of the bargain. They didn't do all this, that, and third. And now I learned how to properly vet my business partners before I get into these relationships. Who else thinks that would be pretty valuable of a lesson to learn before you get into a bad partnership? Or maybe it's, look, I went through the process, the pain of staying comfortable. Right? Like whoever would have thought about that? Like comfort, there's a pain to being comfortable. Right? Like, look, it doesn't feel like a lot in the beginning. It's kind of like, someone just like tapping you on the side of the head. No big deal in the beginning. But dude, how would this feel after an hour? What about after a day? What about after a week? Now this would be like a migraine. This would start to get really annoying. Right? So now I can start to teach, look, I went through that process and I can show you how to make decisions quicker. I can show you how to become okay with letting go of the results, still being attached to the process, but be detached to the results. So ask yourself that question. Write it down so you don't forget it. Give yourself time to think about it later. If you can wave the magic wand and you're capable of being able to spend just an afternoon with your younger self, what would you teach yourself? Elena, I'm curious for you. If you could go backwards in time, I want to hear your answer. If you could go back in time and hang out with like a 21-year-old Elena, what would you teach her?
Oh, man, it's like half a lifetime ago, literally. I think it was in my early 20s that I was kind of really trying to discover my superpower at the time, actually. And I started going to therapy maybe like mid to late 20s. But I think I would have started a lot earlier going to therapy and just healing those parts of myself that just from my, childhood pain and traumas and whatnot. Like I think I would have started a lot earlier to doing that. Yeah, just as a little bit more of a simplistic answer. What about you?
I love your answer, by the way, that you would go back in time and you would teach yourself to start asking for help. It sounds like you would teach yourself, and how freaking powerful. I'll answer. I'll share in a second. However, I just want to highlight something that I recently interviewed David Meltzer, phenomenal human being, and he told me that if he wished he learned one lesson sooner for business and life, he would have learned to ask for help sooner. So I think it's really on par that your answer is in alignment with that you would have gone and sought help. You would have gone and found the therapy, found the mental strength to now start to tackle some of life's earlier challenges and really start to process those sooner.
Yeah. At the time there weren't enough people around me that were going to therapy. And I'm not saying that I needed to depend on that, but it's just like, the stigma still exists right now where it's like, oh, mental health, like, oh, you're crazy if you have a therapist. Like, you're crazy if you don't have a therapist or if you've never had a therapist. Like, I'm saying that jokingly, obviously, but it's like, that should be the norm. And I'm going to continue to repeat that. Right. So what's yours?
So
what would you teach your 15?
Yeah, I'll still go and talk to my 20-year-old self.
Yeah.
There's still some time in between me and him. And what I would do for me personally, I would go back and I would actually start to teach that 20-year-old self the things I'm teaching my people now. I would start to go teach them new habits. See, I would go and start to teach my 20-year-old self the habits of the highly successful individuals. Because what I realized the difference between highly successful people and the average individuals it's not necessarily being born with any innate talent. It's a different skill set. It's a different philosophy, and it's a different set of habits. So I would go back and start teaching myself those habits, because here's the beautiful thing. Habits, once they're installed, they don't need to be continuously reinstalled. My parents put a habit in me when I was younger. They said, yo, Marlon, go brush your teeth. I don't want to brush my teeth. Go brush your teeth. But it makes the food taste weird. Doesn't matter. Go brush your teeth. Did you brush your teeth? Yeah, I did it. Come over here. Let me smell your breath. Go brush your teeth. Right. So I resisted. However, at some point, it got into me. Now, I don't think about it anymore. I wake up, I brush my teeth. Before I go to bed, I brush my teeth. If I'm out on the road and I happen to have a toothbrush with me and I just ate a meal, I brush my teeth. I don't think about it. I just do it. It's a habit, and it serves me well. I haven't had a cavity ever. It serves me extremely well. So when I look at what I would teach myself if I went backwards in time, is I would begin to give myself those high performance habits. And it's funny because this is exactly what I teach now. Right? As a coach, as a high performance coach, this is exactly what I install into people. Right? Because I recognize, look, I went through a lot of unnecessary in-long pain that wasn't teaching me anything else. Right? Like I was running into the same wall on level 2 over and over and over and over and over. So I was going through a pain, but the challenge was I didn't need to go through this pain anymore. I needed to graduate to a new pain.
Yeah.
But I'm hitting the same wall over and over and over until it finally clicked. Dude, change your habits. When your habits change, your identity begins to change with it. When your identity changes, your reality changes. When your reality changes, your friends, your bank account, your everything, all of it changes alongside as well.
I think I wanted to make a slight edit to that statement though. I don't necessarily think that your identity changes. I think that you are creating congruency to who your identity has always been, and then you're proving to yourself that this is who you are, right? You're letting your habits catch up to it, and you're like, okay, so this is the bridge. But a lot of times we're like our identity, right? It's like that's where the angst is. That's where the innate, like, I feel like I'm meant for more. And then it's like we just don't build the habits. We don't ask the right questions. We're not seeking intentionally to do and to know and to be around the people that will help us get there. And so there's always going to be this like, I can't get there. Right. And it's like, but you were doing those things, and you were doing those things, and you were doing those things. And it's like, I constantly think of the word congruency.
Yeah.
And it's like, you were always there.
Well, it's interesting when you say that, and you're correct. And my mind immediately, as you said that, it's changed to what happens is I identify my ideal identity.
Right.
So there becomes this new identification that I identify with it.
Right.
I'm invested with it. Because now when I look at the things I do, they're in alignment with the person I believe myself to be /
Right. And it's not written by or determined by other people. You said earlier, it's like you have to figure it out within yourself internally first.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So if I could go back in time, that's what I would teach the younger Marlon. I would start to teach him, hey, buddy, here are some of these skills. Here are some of these habits that you can take, and they will serve you no matter what you choose to do. The same way brushing my teeth serves me if I'm a doctor, or if I'm a teacher, or if I'm a janitor, or if I'm the CEO of Apple. Right? It's a certain habit, it's a certain skill set that serves no matter what. So when we start to recognize this, looking at the framework of story, teach, and action, we then start, and I want people to understand this. Like, as you're listening, I want you to start thinking about, well, what's my story? Yeah. What is the thing I went through? What is the thing I would teach my younger self, given the opportunity to sit down and spend the afternoon with them, right? And then is there a way for me to actually begin to incorporate some of the teachings that I would teach into my story? And this is where it starts to get fun, because then we get to start plugging the two in, right? Because then I get to start telling people about, in my story, how I drove from New York to Arizona, and how on this journey I began to find myself. And during this time, I started to have to create morning rituals and morning routines for myself. And during those morning routines, a part of that was making time for journaling and prayer. And that was a part of me asking myself, what do I want to create? And why do I want to create it? And finding out that one of the skills of highly successful individuals is being able to check in with themselves. As basic of a skill as it sounds like, it's not a skill that the average individual is doing. The average person is checking in with everybody else. So when we're talking about trying to build a new life, we've got the same old person trying to build a brand new life, and we're going to start to be out of alignment. This is where we see the lack of congruency. What are your thoughts there?
No, I mean, everything that you said, I agree with. It's building that, the word that I think about when I think about, your character is it's congruency. It's intentionality. And that's hard to do because we're swept in so many different directions, and then we always wonder, well, why am I so far from my dreams? Well, you never set your sails. You weren't intentional about it, right? And I'm like, it's not a blaming thing, but it's like and a lot of, we talk a lot about, like, well, you know what you know and you don't know what you don't know, but it's like, like you said earlier, this is kind of like a seminar. Like, we're trying to create opportunities for people to learn what we've learned personally, professionally, right? In our studies, like how intentional we've been in what we've tried to learn, and to help other people, help ourselves, and then also help other people. It's intentionality.
You couldn't have said it better, like Elena, the intentionality. And this is where we're going to see how we're going to be jumping through between the story, teach, and action, how it's going to they come together like this. Like, you've got these pieces on a plate, and then you start to mix the food together. Right? You mix the food together well. And you ultimately, you still do follow a certain way of doing things. It's like, I might get a scoop of the mashed potatoes, and then I stick the fork into the chicken. And then after I do that, I take a sip of the drink, right? I'm not necessarily going to pour the Sprite all over everything. Like, that would be insane. But maybe I mix the mashed potatoes and the chicken up a little bit more, right? And that's the story, teach, action. So when it comes to the action, we want to recognize that as we then take people through our story and we start to teach them, right? And as you all start to teach other people, you give them a call to action, right? For example, right now, and I want you all to prove to yourself that you're capable of action. I want you to take out your notebook, and I want you to write down the thing that stood out the most to you. And we're going to hang out here for a second. So I'm going to give you time. I want you to actually write down on a piece of paper the thing that stood out to you the most. And if you've been taking notes this entire time, like, I know Andrea is in here. I know Andrea is taking notes right now. She's amazing with her notes. I want you
Andrea the Great.
Andrea the Great. I want you to comment right now what your biggest takeaway is so far. All right, put it in the comments. See, the reason I need you to do this isn't for us. I need you to do this for you. I need you to show yourself that you are capable of action, because you're already here. See, Elena and I, we're going to have a good time whether you do or not. I'm just going to be honest. Like, I love getting on these lives. I love doing it. I love working on my ability to communicate. I love refining the knowledge that I'm building from studying the greats, the Tony Robbins, the Dean Graziosi, reading the books, writing the notes. I love it. Now, what I want to see you do is be intentional about what you're doing here. Are you here to learn? Are you here to grow? Are you here just to be purely educated? Or are you here to be entertained? Is this just background music for you? Right? I think you could probably find some more interesting background music. If you find us as good background music, that's pretty damn interesting, actually. Comment if we're just background music. I'm very curious to find out what you listen to on the regular. So take action right now. And I'm not asking you to do anything crazy. I'm not asking you to pull out your credit card. I'm not asking you to go out into the streets and shout from the rooftop what it is you're learning and what you're passionate about. But I want you to share right now. Share your biggest takeaway so far. Share the note that when you're looking in your notebook, you're like, this is the one, right? Andrea says creating congruency to, let me actually make this full so I can see it here. Oh. She says creating congruency to who I have always been. I have always been Drea the Great. I absolutely love that, Andrea. Right? What else do we have? Elizabeth says, my story. Elizabeth is seeing that her story is powerful, that her story is meaningful, that her story has the power to help somebody else. Right? So we have a few people on here live right now, but I only see 2 comments. So do we see when they talk about the ratio of why people could be in a room, why they can have a seminar full of people? And oftentimes we get this. Well, if the information worked, Elena, if the information worked, Marlon, why isn't everybody rich? If the book How to Win Friends and Influence People worked so well, why isn't everybody popular? If Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich was so dang good, why is everybody not a bajillionaire? Well, you just saw it. Only about 2% of the room took action just now. Right. That's why. Well, if the information that they're giving out is so valuable, why are they giving it out for free? Because we know only about 2% of you ever actually take action. I can give away all my best information for free. In fact, I do. Follow me on Instagram at Mindset Marlon. I literally share some of the things. Some of the things I share is what I pay my coaching clients. They pay me. Right? My coaching clients pay me for some of the same information that I give away for free. Right? The only difference is my coaching clients are people that take action. So I provide to them a deeper level of support. I'm willing to invest my time, energy, effort, and network into them to really help them install those habits. I'm able to provide them with more support because they're somebody worth spending the time on.
Right.
So let me ask you all, who are you in this scenario, in this world of people that some take action and some don't? I'm going to roll this banner up again, right? Would you rather feel uncomfortable or would you rather feel nothing at all? Because the choice of inaction is choosing to feel nothing at all. And the people that choose to feel nothing at all, well, they don't really choose to feel nothing at all. The people that feel nothing at all, Elena, where are they?
On their couch.
6 feet under. They're 6 feet under.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
They're dead. They're in the graveyard. Those are the only people that feel nothing.
So I have a question, right? I'm going to ask, sort of an audience question. So that question of, can you put that banner question up again? What would you rather? Right. So I would venture to guess that someone in the audience or someone that's watching this recording is saying, but I'm already uncomfortable, Marlon. I already, you don't know my story. I'm already really uncomfortable. I'm already going through a lot. I don't have it. I don't want to feel more uncomfortable. What would you say to them?
Oh, that is so good, Elena. And that is somebody. There is somebody that's thinking like, well, I'm already overwhelmed. I'm already stressed out. I'm already doing as much as I can. I'm doing the therapy. I'm taking care of the kids. I'm washing the house. I'm working. I'm paying the bills. I'm making sure we don't get behind on any of the payments. Right. I am at the end. And here's what I would honestly tell them. And honestly, Elena, this is where some people are probably going to start to hate my guts. But this is me putting my coaching hat on now for a second. Just being real. This is me putting my coaching hat on. When you think you're at your end, when you think your gas tank is on empty, you're probably only at about maybe 60%. You've got more in your gas tank. See, God made you way more powerful, way stronger than you think. Now, you've got a lot going on and you are stressed, and I will acknowledge that. You've got so much on your shoulders. I will acknowledge that. However, there's a certain sort of healing that happens next, and this healing happens with the support of others. See, this healing happens when you start. If you've ever seen those individuals, I know everyone's not into the military, but if they've ever watched the Navy SEALs, you see when they put the Navy SEALs through BUDS training, there's a portion of the training that is first solo. That's just each individual by themselves. And what they're doing is they're weeding out the people. They're weeding out the people that can't take the initial level 1 stress, right? And as those people start to weed out, now it becomes more intense. They no longer continue to have you work by yourself. Now you get squatted up. Now you join a platoon. Now you have support. So it's you and your team. And you'll see it. They put the logs on their shoulders. They've got to carry the boats over their heads. These are some of the toughest trainings in the world. And they're making you do it with other people because they understand that there's only another level of strength that can be accessed with the support of others. So this is why I go and I have mentors. I have coaches. But I want to get better at my physical health. I have a personal trainer. I want to get better at my mindset and my business. I have a high performance coach. I want to get better at real estate. I hired a mentor. right? I go and I find these people to get me to the next level because I had to acknowledge and I had to look in the mirror and be truthful with myself that the best of my own personal capabilities had gotten me to this point of surviving.
Yep.
I had only gotten myself up to the point of survival. And now if I wanted to move into the next level, if I wanted to break through into the next level capabilities, I was going to need help.
Yep.
So yes, I acknowledge that you are there and you're stressed right now. And look, right now we're talking about a pretty heavy topic, and I get it. Right now we're like, okay, we're exposing, we're pulling something out into the light for you right now. So I can promise you, because we're pulling this out, because we're doing this thing right now where we're pulling this out into the light, I just want to let you know, like, this wasn't the intention for today. However, I will let you know that if you need the support, reach out to Elena, reach out to myself, whoever you resonate. If you resonate with one of us, if you resonate with the both of us, reach out to us offline, right? We can work with you, right? Because I understand right now, I'm not just going to expose your wounds. I'm not just going to open the wounds up and walk away, right? Imagine your surgeon did that. Imagine the surgeon just opened you up and then walked away. So we're not going to just open it up and walk away. So there is support if you need it. So Elena, you're absolutely right. So to that person, I would say, look, I know you're going through something. Now you need to get just a little bit more uncomfortable. And that little bit more uncomfortable is what you said earlier, Elena. It's asking for help.
Yeah.
Actually now sharing how much stress you're truly under. Stop being afraid that you're going to tell somebody and they're going to take advantage of you. That's the scariest part of when you're feeling so fragile, like you're a house of cards. Because that's how I felt. Like, literally, like, it's just like, wow, someone can really take advantage of me right now. I'm stressed.
Yeah.
I'm not making my best decisions right now. I'm worried. I'm thinking everybody's out after my money. I'm thinking everybody's out after, like, they just want me to do stuff for them because I'm friendly. I'm stressed. So I get it. So that next level of discomfort is going to be now being able to raise your hand and saying, help. I need help. And I'm willing to do what I need to do to get out of this hole. I'm willing to do what I need to do to get out of this situation. I'm at rock bottom and I want to go somewhere else.
I think about this story in the Bible, and I'd love to answer Andrea's question, but I think about the story in the Bible, and I want to say it's in Matthew, where it's the story of the paralytic, and it's like Jesus comes and he's ready to heal people, right? And then the paralytic is there, and he's like, I want to be healed, right? And then his friends are there, like, don't you want to be healed? And he's like, I don't know, right? And it's like the beautiful part of that story is that his friends carry the paralytic. He's on his mat and he's carrying him to Jesus to be healed, right? And I think about that, and just like my college pastor, shout out to Ryan Kim, our college pastor, he shared about that, and it's like that was what he was trying to foster in our college ministry, was a level of community where we would do that with one another, right? And I think that really is, I think, the intention of how we're meant to live and support one another, is being each other's mat carriers. And I still remember that sermon like so well to this day. And to answer Andrea's question, it says, what's the difference, or what is the definition of uncomfortable? Is stress uncomfortable, or just a symptom of staying comfortable and knowing there's more? Wow.
Such a good question. So do you want to take that, or I got an answer for that?
You go ahead. You go.
So, and this answer I learned yesterday, actually. So it's a really fun definition that I'm playing with now, and I'm really enjoying it. And I believe it was Brendan Burchard. Brendan Burchard said, and I like to give people their credit, so shout out to Brendan. Brendan, when you're watching this, what up, bro?
I love it.
So Brendan Burchard said that ultimately stress and discomfort and being uncomfortable is it's a trigger, right? It's a trigger, and the behavior that most people respond to with that trigger is to stop, is to halt, is to slow down. Like, whoa. The stress button's being clicked, right? The discomfort button's being clicked. Let me slow down and stop. Where he said, on the other end, there's a group of people that have learned to identify this trigger, for lack of better terms. I'm trying to think of another word for it, but I'm going to call it trigger for now. That they've learned to identify when stress comes in. This is the proper response is experimentation. In other words, try something new. In other words, try something different. So as you're experiencing this stress in your life, and it's this consistent over and over and over and stress, it's a sign to adapt. It's a sign to create a new response, right? Not react, but to respond, right? Because there are two ways to change. There's a reactive change and there's a responsive change. There's a stimulus comes in and I'm either just reacting to it and I'm not really choosing the behavior, or I'm responding to the stimulus. I see the stress is coming. I take the time to stop and breathe and acknowledge, all right, I'm feeling stressed. I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm feeling anxiety. I'm feeling like everything is coming crushing in on itself right now. What do I want to do next? Do I want to continue doing the same thing I've been doing? Right? And why am I doing that? Was it given to me as a formula that it would work? Or am I just doing this because I saw the people in my life do it before them? And what result did they produce? See, yesterday we spoke about thrive, and this morning, if anyone was following my Instagram, we spoke about the word thrive and what the letters mean. And the T in thrive stood for, what did I say the T stood for? The T in thrive stood for turn to a leader. T in thrive stood for turn to a leader. I had to look down at my notes for that. Right? Look towards a leader. Look towards somebody who is on the other side of the valley that you want to get to.
Yeah.
And now when they say, look, this is how you're going to respond to your stress. And this is where that asking for help becomes so important. This is how you're going to respond to that stress, Elena. This is how you're going to respond to that stress, Andrea. This is how you're going to respond to your stress, Sarah. You're going to do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And now we experiment with that new behavior. We have a reason for it. See, it all builds on top of itself. When we start to take it out of context and we try and just do one by itself and not have the entire map together, we find ourselves trying to do it all alone again. Right? And if you want to do it alone, okay, look, you will get there. But how long will it take you?
Yeah.
Are you willing to spend that sort of time? Are you willing to sacrifice that time going through and figuring out what somebody already has discovered? Personally, I'm not. Personally, I see the value in paying for speed. Personally, I will go to somebody and I will say, I need help. Like, help. So that's my answer.
I think about what when I think about symptoms, right? I think about the Western, I think about Western medicine. So Western medicine is very much based on reported symptoms and then a script. Here's medication that you can pop, right? And I'm not going to get into the conspiracy theories of pharmaceutical industry, but in the medical system in America, but it's created a culture where we want the quick fix. Just give me a pill. Just give me a pill. Make my depression, make my trauma, make all of my pain go away. Just give me a magic pill. Right? And I think that what that does to us is that it prevents us the ability to test our level of resiliency and our strength. And that's what is needed to pursue delusional dreams. And so we're muting everything. We're subduing that process. And it's like, I think that there is a certain level of discomfort that is good for us. Someone was telling me that the other day, they're like, oh, no pressure, and I was like, actually, I need pressure. I actually thrive on a little bit of pressure. I'm a little bit of like a procrastinator because I like that pressure. I like that, oh shoot, it's due, right? And I'm like last minute kind of thing or whatever. But it's like I thrive on that pressure, right? And it's like the Western, and I'm not trying to knock doctors and stuff, but it's like, and I think medicine is good, right, to a certain degree. But when you think about medications, especially the ones that are like, if you've got a really serious disease, like obviously, giving an example of what my mom's going through, and I was talking to her oncologist, it's like, wow, chemo, it kills. Yes, it's supposed to intend to kill the tumor, the malignant cancer in someone's body, but it also can kill a lot of other things. And it's like, is that what we really want? It's like, no, we should actually try to do everything in our own power to develop the resiliency to go through, so that when we reach different heights, we're going to experience different pain, and we're going to experience different levels of discomfort. But we've already told ourselves, I've been through it. I've developed the muscle memory and the ability and the resiliency to go through this new level of pain. But it's like, if we never develop that, like, we're shortchanging ourselves from proving that we have just that one more, just that ability. And so, like, for me, like, I actually, I, not that I'm sadistic, but I actually like some level of pressure and discomfort, because it makes me feel human. It makes me feel like I'm kind of in the right place to a certain degree.
Right. You value it, as you should.
Yeah.
As
Yeah.
we all should, right? And I try to stay away from the word should, because it implies that there's a right or wrong. However, when we do start, I just want to be honest. All right, I'm gonna again put the coach's hat on for a minute. When you make up your mind and you decide that there's a direction that you want to go, that you want to walk in life, and you say, look, my goal is to get to California. Now, if you start walking north and you're standing in the middle of New York and you just think, I'm just going to march north, I'm going to say you should be marching west, right? Because now that you've made up your mind on where you want to go, you have decided what success looks like. You have decided what the finish line looks like. I can tell you right and wrong. You can now look at your own life and figure out what is right or wrong. And when we decide we want to grow, when I make up my mind that I want to take my life to the next level, that I want to become a producer, that I want to be the person that takes care of my family, that I want to be the one, right? Like Ed Milet says, I want to be the one. You want to be like Neo in the Matrix. You're the one that unlocks it for everybody. You're the one that opens up reality and opens up the world and opens up possibility for your family, your friends, your neighborhood, your community, your church. I get it. So once you make up your mind that that's what you want, and you've decided for yourself that's what you want, and you decided why you want it, now I can tell you, you should value pain. I can say that with confidence. I can say that with conviction, that you need to develop the ability to value pain. You need to be able to recognize, how do I value pain, and how do I be discerning on how much is too much pain, how much is too little, right? Because there's a healthy amount of pressure. There's also an unhealthy amount of pressure.
Yeah.
Just like the hot water heater in my basement right now. If you ever look at those machines, if anyone's ever had the unfortunate experience of watching one blow up, you realize the reason it blew up is because it didn't have a pressure release valve. See, it didn't know how to release the pressure. So it took on too much pressure and then exploded from within. Not from without, from within. However, if you don't add that pressure, guess what happens? You don't get any hot water. No showers. So there's a fine balance once you choose to start walking in a predetermined destination. This is setting goals for yourself. Now, I do want to say something, Elena, because you said something and it triggered this thought for me. And this is why the value of asking for help is so critical. You said that there's a certain amount of pain and stress and discomfort that you understand is good for you. And I want to acknowledge the truth of, because some people are like, to your point earlier, well, Elena, I'm in that place right now. Elena, I'm already in the valley. Marlon, you don't get it. Like, I got this bill, I got all this stuff going on. I'm in the valley already.
Yeah.
I'm already in pain. Well, yeah, but again, what are you missing? See, you're missing that bird's eye view. You're missing that support. Because I think about when I was first getting into real estate and I hired my first mentor. It wasn't Pace Morgan, it was another mentor, actually. I think I've told you the story that I paid, a substantial amount of money to go and get that mentorship. A substantial amount of money that I did not have. And why did I do that? It's because the man that was standing in front of me, that was to become my mentor, so a man that I still work with, a man that I'm going to go see in Florida next week, which is just phenomenal, actually, that I think about how far things have come. When he stood in front of me, See, he said something. He said, "Look, I know what it's like to be in your seat because I sat in your seat 20 years ago. I know what it's like to be overwhelmed. I know what it's like to not have any money, to not know how the next bill is going to get paid, to have kids at home that I've got to feed, to have a wife that's reliant on me. Her only dream in this world is to be a stay-at-home mom." Right? That's what she told me when we got together. She told me she wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, and I'm the idiot that told her we can make it happen. So I get it. I know what pressure feels like. And now he's standing in front of me with the confidence of, look, I'm wealthy already. I've made it. I understand how to get through this. I know the path, and I can show it to you.
Yeah.
But you gotta trust me. And there's a calm to him. He was no longer in the same pressure. He was no longer feeling the same pain. So I can trust him because he had felt the pain. But I could trust him even more because he's not emotionally experiencing it today.
Yeah.
Which allows him to give me clear sight. It allows him to give me clear feedback. And this is important to recognize that while you're in your box of pain, this is a cultivating time for you. You're not ready to be pulled out of the oven yet. You've got to stay in the oven a little while longer. What you need is somebody on the outside of the oven that you can trust to pull you out when you're ready.
Yeah. And there's another thing that I was thinking about in regards to pain, and we've talked about this before, and they talked about it also in the Thrive this week, is that like what you think about expands, right? You hear that a lot. What you think about expands. So if you're, I'm not trying to especially as a social worker and as a therapist, I'm not trying to discount feelings of pain, right? But when people focus on their pain and they focus on their pain and they focus on their pain and they're like, ow, 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 I'm in pain, I'm in pain, I'm pain. Guess what happens to your pain? Emotionally and physically, it expands. And it's interesting because I was asking my mom this week. I said, "How are you doing?" She got her first round of chemo last week, actually, and she said, so like one of the first few days afterwards, she was like, "Oh, it hurts a lot, right?" And she's like, "Oh, she's like overly focused on it." And I'm not going to tell her don't focus on it, but I just said, "I'm sorry, mom. Like, maybe you can take some medication or whatever." But it's like Tylenol. I didn't tell her to take anything too serious. And then a couple days later, I said, "How are you feeling?" She's like, "I still feel pain, but I got to pray with my spiritual mother and I got to, sing worship songs and praise God. And when I was focusing on God and praising God and giving gratitude, even in the midst of having cancer, it's like," she's like, "my pain actually went away." And I was like, "Oh my God, that's beautiful." Right. And like, I talked to our sub-2 brother, Nick Minden, and I like to call him Nick Minden because I don't know, just sounds cool with mindset and everything. But she, I was talking to Nick, and Nick was going through, just some struggles this one particular week. And then he heard that his friend who has cancer had an accident and was like in the hospital. And I was like, oh man, like, first I was like, are you okay? Right. Because he mentioned that he's been struggling with some stuff. And then he said, "You know what? Like, I know that I'm going through stuff, but when I found out that my friend was in the hospital, I didn't think twice. I drove up and went to go spend time with him and hang out with him." Right. And it's like, I thought that was beautiful because it's like, hey, and then I said, "Well, what happened with your pain?" And he's like, "I just realized that I wasn't focused on it anymore." Right. And Pace has shared stories of just things that happen in his life. And then I love that what Pace always says, Pace Morby, he always says, "Shut up and do the work." He always tells himself, "Shut up and do the work. Shut up and do the work." And he's experienced some really painful things in his life. Right. But it's like, he focuses on providing value for people, providing value for people. And I thought about, I think my older self would have told myself, "Okay, your mom's going through cancer right now. You've got a lot going on, and just don't do anything anymore." Right. And yeah, I could have given myself permission to not do anything. Right. And I am recognizing some of my limitations. Right. But to me, it's like, I actually told myself, I'm like, I'm going to double down and I'm going to serve more and try to provide more value to people. Right. And I'm not ignoring my pain. but I'm recognizing that I still want to, other people are also in pain, and I want to serve and help other people as well, while still giving myself permission to, experience what I'm experiencing, feeling what I'm feeling, and then also being there for my family. Right. But I think that part of that pain is, if give yourself permission to acknowledge it. But if you stay there and you focus so much just on your pain, you're going to miss out on opportunities of helping other people. Right. Or even in some ways, I think sometimes helping other people is kind of like helping yourself too. Right. I mean, it just depends on the situation. I'm not telling people to be codependent, but again, it's like what you focus on expands. So for me, it's like I was going through stuff and I'm like, okay, I still like, so I'm like, I needed to shift my focus to continuing to serve, because that's what I know I'm meant to be created for.
Yep.
So I think that pain is good and discomfort is good.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. And what you just said near the end, like I want to capture something you said, which is helping other people is helping yourself. And Matthew McConaughey actually said this, right? That there's selfishness and selflessness, and they're not mutually exclusively different. They're actually one and the same. When done, you realize they can be one and the same, right? I'm very transparent with people, right? Like we spent an hour and a half, we spent 90 minutes talking about pain, extracting it, showing them how just even being able to communicate about it out loud publicly is one of the first steps to being able to heal, acknowledging it. And I let people know, like, I love helping people. And when I help them, it helps me. I help people with the Morning Mindset Coffee community, right? That's a community that, check this out, Elena, right? Because you're aware of this. I have that community there, and I charge for that community. It's a product that I sell. So I'm helping myself, and I'm also helping others, right? We have people like Andrea inside there. I have people like Sarah that come inside that call. And like today, Andrea, the coolest thing ever, she messages me, and hopefully she's okay with me sharing this. She messages me and says, dude, today, after our call, so at the end of every day, we meet for an hour every morning, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., right? Entrepreneurs coming together to work on this, to work on the mindset, to really work on being able to develop that part of us that's so critical. After every call in the morning, I leave that room open, like it's a Zoom room, and I Zoom room open, and we call it the after party. And now the after party is where we really get to connect. We really get to dive deep. Like imagine going to a networking event and they had presenters, but now like you know where the real value is. The real value is connecting with the people in the audience.
Yeah.
So the after party is where that happens every day. And Andrea texted me earlier this morning, and she says, dude, today's after party was the most valuable that I've just ever been a part of. After we had Jaime speak, after Jaime spoke and he shared his story, because of what I'm also doing is I'm teaching people inside of our community to get comfortable sharing their story. So they don't just look at you and I, Elena, and think, well, look at you guys could do it. Elena looks so great on camera and she's got the microphone and her hair is always so silky smooth. And Marlon, he just doesn't care. He doesn't matter if he rolls out of bed, gets on there, he just starts talking. Like, I can never do that. Well, you can. Right, and we give them the opportunity to speak and share their story. So this morning, Jaime shared his story. Gosh, I don't know if you know his story, but it was.
I don't.
It was so powerful. Like I never knew that story was in there, and what he went through. The people he's going to be able to help, Elena. It's going to be. And she tells me, like, dude, after Jaime shared his story, then Tori came on, and then Tori finally opened up for the first time. And I'm like, who the heck's Tori? She's like, dude, Tori, the one that never says anything, the guy that's quiet. I'm like, that Tori? He opened up, he was sharing. I missed it. And just anything, you provided a community for this to happen.
That's amazing.
That was a product. That was me also helping myself. That was me creating residual income. Right? I'm totally transparent. I get paid for people coming in there to do that. I enjoy what I do, and I also make money to do it. I still, like, if people want to sign up right now, go to morningmindsetcoffee.com. Like, I am, right, like, you might be thinking that, like, I have trouble selling that thing. I don't ever have trouble selling it because, like Dean said, I want to share that experience with other
Yeah.
people. I want other people to come in and experience that early in the morning, getting primed every day, connecting with entrepreneurs who understand the struggle you're going through, who understand and who are willing to give you advice, who are willing to help you stay in the oven a little while longer and to also help pull you out. Right. And that came from, like you said, serving others and also allowing others to serve me. It was this mutually beneficial,
Yeah.
everybody's rising. Right. And now, even as I'm doing this with my clients with the high performance coaching, oh my gosh, Elena, I was working with one of my clients 2 days ago and story. Because I do a 2-hour onboarding with my clients. They come on. Before we even start, we just do 2 hours of I need to know everything about it. We're diving into your story. We're opening it up. And oh my gosh, Elena, this woman is going to change the freaking world. I fell in love with her and her story and her mission. After being able to go that deep with her. And I'm getting paid to do this.
Yeah.
I want people to understand this. I want us to start to, if you're here listening to us, right? If you've granted us, if you gave us access into your psyche, if you've given us your attention, I want to make sure that you have something of value. I want to make sure that you leave here with something valuable. Because earlier today, I said I want to do a good job for you all tonight. I want to do a great job for you. So what I want to make sure I give you, at the very least, is a new perspective, is a new relationship to how your story can serve. Not just yourself, how your story can serve others, how it will serve both you and others. And if you need help with this, come join our community. Come be a part of the morningmindsetcoffee.com. Go to morningmindsetcoffee.com. Sign up. Try it out for a week. Try it out for 1 week. See what it's about. Go and connect with Sarah in the chat. Go and ask Andrea in the chat. Ask them what their experience has been. Right? Ask them what sort of growth they've had. Ask them, right? Go, if you're like, oh my gosh, every time I listen to Elena, like something gets better in my life. Go and reach out to her. She's offering high performance coaching now for the first time ever. This is something, she's been a dedicated social worker for over 10 years. She's classically and professionally trained to handle things that I don't even get to touch. And she's now offering that to people. If you resonate with her, go and plug in with her. Don't sit and wait and come back a year from now and think, I should have did it back then. Because you don't want to be the person that life presents you with an opportunity and then you don't take action and you come back a year later as the same individual. The only difference is the opportunity is no longer there. Don't do that to yourself. Do not. Right? I love what Andrea said. She said, I signed up for sub 2 and I've gotten Elena and MMC. Right? Andrea's like, yo, I'm working on myself. I'm investing in myself. Plugging in. Right? Sarah says MMC all the way. Right? This is what happens. Like when you start working on yourself, you start to go into new levels. Your life starts to get better in every area. Right? I'm letting people know right now, this is an opportunity. If you're watching this right now and you're interested in doing high performance coaching, these spots, I will say probably within the next 7 to 14 days will be gone, if even that long, because I can only work with 3 more people.
Yeah, I've got actually same thing. I've got 3 more slots for my one-on-one coaching, and then the group coaching still has more spots. But you know, I'm going to speak to probably the conscience and voice of some people in the audience, whether you're watching now or later. I personally struggled with the setting the price, and I'm going to be fully transparent, right? And Marlon's been kicking my ass and calling my, ish out all week. And the thing that I realized is and I'm not trying to like brag or, drop my bio, or whatever, but it's like, I'm 41 years old. I started my undergraduate studies in the year 2000. That was over 22 years ago. Studying sociology. I minored in psychology. I went and did a year missions trip in Thailand after the tsunami with my church, wanting to just help more people. Ended up getting my master's degree at Columbia. Columbia University it's very, very expensive, but I paid for the level of education in the name, right? And it's like, and I'm still a social worker, and I was a family therapist. And I think the thing that I realized is that what I'm trying to do, and the reason why I set my pricing the way that it is what I am most confident in offering is the level of care that I can provide, coupled with the tremendous amount of skill and education that I have. And to me, it's like, I mean, I feel unstoppable when I say that, because people are like, well, I would rather just listen to a book and buy an audiobook, or, watch our YouTube. Great, but it's not interactive. And my specialty is, I actually, and just to be fully transparent, I actually don't call myself a high performance coach. I think that my title and what I'm choosing to call myself is a mindset and relationship coach. I don't know if that's going to, like, maybe just, dissuade some people or whatever. But I think for me, that's what I'm offering. Is one of my greatest specialties, and my superpower is I can help people identify what those traumas and emotional barriers are, where it comes from. I always talk about this idea of like roots, right? And like the weeds that are growing, right? Your weeds are so high, it's a bush, and you can't get to the other side, and you feel like that's your barrier. And I'm like, then let's figure out where those roots are. And then let's together, I'm not going to do it, right? But it's like, let's dig those roots out so that you can have the next clear path. Right. And that's, to me, like, again, I'm not trying to sell, right? I'm not trying to sell. This is the service that I provide, is my ability to care deeply for the people that I work with. And that is my superpower, is to identify and to help uproot those barriers, those wounds, those traumas, and to give you a clear path to where you want to go. And it's, I mean, I consider it a privilege. I'm not doing it for money. I'm charging at the level that I want to charge because I want to be able to quit my 9 to 5 and to be able to, like, put that aside and not have to worry financially. And for me, I'm helping people get there so that you don't have to worry about your finances, that you can pursue your dreams as well. Right. And so that's the thing that I struggled with really hard this week. Marlon was like, I was working next to Kirk in the office right here, and I was typing out the pricing, and I was like, oh my God, this is a really uncomfortable. And it's an insecurity, right? People are not going to want to charge, people are not going to want to pay this much. And I was just like, okay, this is like a God-sized amount, God-sized dream. I just send, and then the next morning I was like, oh my gosh, I got my first client that wanted to sign up for the highest tier level that I'm offering at the guy's size amount, right? And I'm just like, and that was, to me, I was just like, oh, like, it's on, right? But yeah, it's, I think that what we offer is, especially early on too, what Marlon and I are offering is our passion and compassion for helping people, for helping you. Right. So it's the service. We are in the industry of serving, and we've done it for free. We've done it for next to nothing for a really long time. And it's one of those things where it's like, it's time. It's time for both of us to rise to the level that we've been operating at. And it's like, we're bringing congruency now to the pricing. So thank you, Marlon, for bringing me to that point and calling me out. Creighton's been calling me out too. Right. But thank you, Marlon, for being that brother that I can just be like, I don't know, like, and you just always ask me good questions to challenge my insecurities and my position. And it's like, oh shoot, that's right. So I appreciate you, brother.
I appreciate you, Elena, and I'm so happy that we're having this conversation because, throw something in the chat if you're also benefiting from this, if you're also seeing the value of it. How many of us have, seriously, real talk, how many of us have undervalued ourselves before in the marketplace? Yeah. How many of us have confused people pleasing with being kind? Right? That's us being afraid. Right? When we don't charge, what we're really saying is, look, please like me.
Yeah.
Please love me. Please don't run away from me.
Stop calling my shit out. I'm just kidding.
Look, I only know it because I went through it. That's why I teach you. I went through that pain. Right? I tell people, like, look, So check this out, Elena. I told you this. I haven't told anyone else this yet, so you're all getting to hear it right now for the first time for being here. I had one woman ask me, she said, look, I love everything that you do, and I believe that you're the person that can take me to the next level and that you can absolutely enhance my life. And I've been following your social media content. I like just the things I've tuned in have already provided so much value. So I know it's you. But why are you so expensive?
Mm-mm.
She asked me that. And I was grateful she asked me that. Because she provided me the opportunity to ask myself, am I worth it? And I told her, my response to her was, look, I get that I'm expensive. I get that this costs a lot. Yeah. However, would you rather get transformation, or would you rather stay in the same place being uncomfortable the way you are currently? You've already told me you've been trying to fix this for the last 2 years. You know it needs to change. See, when I ask you to be uncomfortable with making the decision, I'm asking you to commit. When I'm asking you to spend that money, I'm asking you to invest in yourself. I'm asking you to make a decision that if it's uncomfortable to spend, see, if it weren't uncomfortable, if she could spend the money too easily, I would actually need to raise the price on her. Not for me to get more money, but for her to be fully committed. Because the truth is, when we put money down that's uncomfortable for us to spend, we commit. So for myself, and I know you're this way too, and this is why I was telling you, Elena, you need to raise your prices. You are so obsessed with the person getting results. You are so obsessed with pouring into your people until they have results. And that's what they're paying for. They're paying for results. See, I let my people know you can learn all this stuff. I learned it reading books, right? But it didn't click until I finally got to the place of taking action. And I know myself well enough to know, look, the truth is, I can take a little bit of action until I stop. Until it becomes a habit, I need somebody standing over my shoulder barking at me. I need the support. I'm done arguing. I need the support. I have a personal trainer for a reason. I have a mentor for a reason. I have a high performance coach for a reason. I pay for that support. I pay for that speed. And I want people to understand this, because you do the same thing. Each and every one of us is doing this in some area and capacity in our life. If we're in real estate, we're making offers that don't actually work because we're uncomfortable. We're still trying to be liked versus trying to be efficient. I don't want to be, when I get hired as a coach, I tell them from the start, look, you and I may have been friends before this, and we will continue to be friends after this. But when I put my coaching hat on, you're a client and I'm your coach. You paid me to produce a result. I take my job very seriously. I know that when someone comes to you, Elena, and this is why I keep telling you, your price, I already know your current price will not be tomorrow's price. Your price is going to continue to go up. Your stock is going to continue to go up. So I'm letting people know they should, if they have the opportunity to get in with your low price right now, they should. If you resonate, and this is only if you resonate with Elena, right? If you feel that what she offers can get you to where you want to be, to get you to where you want to go, and you want to dive deeper with her. Because the truth is, by actually working with her at that capacity as well, where you're able to compensate her for her time. And I just want to point this out to everybody that thinks about this. When you're able to compensate people for their time, they can relax and they can pour more into you. They can put more attention on you. They can put support on you, because they don't need to worry about the other things anymore. You're now paying for their exclusivity.
Right.
Recognize that.
I mean, I created a Calendly link within our Sub2 community, and I just was doing free one-on-ones, and so many people booked. I mean, it was booked out. Like I created the Calendly link earlier this year, and it was booked out until the fall, like September. People were waiting like in line, right? And then it's like, and then when I start charging, and it was not, and I've been wanting to get this off my chest too, and share this, is that I never ever once thought that when I entered Sub2 that I was going to do this and do coaching at all. Like, it was not my intention. I think one of the biggest things that I struggle with is, and I talk to you a lot about this, is like, what is the difference between opportunistic and a savvy business person, right? And I struggle with that a lot, because I'm just like, I don't want to be that kind of sleazy opportunistic person. But the more that I realize, and this whole week with the Time to Thrive challenges, it's like, I'm not selling a product. I'm not selling something where it's like, oh gosh, it's that much money, right? I'm like, yeah, it is, because you get me walking with you. You get my skill set and my level of care and compassion. It's like people were lined up, and I'm not trying to brag, but it's like people were lined up waiting 2-3 months to want to talk with me. Right. And so like now that I'm charging that amount, it's like, yeah, it is. Because I get text messages every week of like, you've changed my life. I've gotten this many deals now. I've helped this many people now. I feel like a leader now. I've always wanted to be a leader. I got a text message this week. I've always wanted to be a leader and I never knew how until you, and he wrote, you did something in me. And I said, I didn't do anything to you. I gave you permission to believe something that you've always wanted to believe in yourself. Right. And it's like no longer do I feel like I'm not going to be apologetic about it anymore. I'm going to struggle with it because I'm trying to get rid of this old mindset. But at the same time, it's like we charge this much because we've poured in to so much of our own education. We're trying to speed up the process for everyone. That's the other thing too. And like the other saying that they say a lot in the Time to Thrive challenge is, what is it costing you to not invest in yourself? How much longer do you want to wait to pursue something that you know you have in you, but you're not quite sure how to get there, or you're not fully believing that you can get there? It's like, how much longer do you want to wait for that? So for you and I, right, it's like, I'm like, day one, when they opened up with the Time to Thrive, I'm like, what's the product that they're selling? Because I'm ready. We already are both in the mindset of we're ready to invest and put down, right? Like we've spent the money. And it's like, how do we convince people that you are worth investing in? It's an investment. You're not buying a fancy car. If you want to do that later, great. But it's like, you're not buying a fancy car. Or maybe in some ways you are. You're buying a fancy car because you're going to get there much faster. If we're gonna kind of use that analogy. So anyway, it's not this. I did not intend to turn this into, whatever sales.
I'm happy, and what I'm happy is they're getting to see that you're someone that's continuously evolving. Because the Elena that's here was not the same Elena that was here a month ago. It's not the same Elena that was here 6 months ago, and will not be the same Elena that's here 6 months from now. And this is why I say, like, your stock is continuously increasing. When we invest in ourselves, that's what happens. You put into you, it cannot be taken back out. It's like when you start mixing 2 drops of water. I can't separate those drops of water anymore. Mm-hmm. That's the equivalent of investing in yourself. Once they start to put that in you, they can't take it back anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's worth a lot. So I want to wrap up with this. Warren Buffett, they started off the week. Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi both started off with a quote from Warren Buffett, where Warren was giving his annual, speech. He was giving his annual assessment of what he sees with the coming market. And he says, look, guys, you keep asking me what's coming in this downward market, right? What we should be looking forward to, what we should be investing in. He says, look, there are 2 things that you need to invest in when it comes to a down market. Number 1, invest in yourself.
Yeah.
You are your number 1 investment. You are going to beat the NASDAQ. You are going to beat the S&P 500, right? In fact, Alex Hormozi said, invest in the S&P 500.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that.
Invest in yourself. Number 2, start a business. Isn't it interesting how those 2 things go side by side? Because business at first needs you. The higher level you are, the higher leader you are, the higher operator you are, the more successful your business will be. So really, number 2 is pointing back to number 1. Invest in yourself. Warren Buffett, arguably one of the greatest investors of our time. So if that little man thinks it's a good idea to invest, that little guy who maybe he's brand new on the block, he thinks it's a good idea to invest in himself, I think I'm going to listen to his advice. I think I'm going to, I raised my hand and I said I needed help, and that was the answer I got. I think I'm going to take some action on it. So, Elena, thank you so much for us doing this. You know, you are the best freaking co-host. I feel honored to be able to hang out with you every Friday at this time. And we got our book club tomorrow too, which is going to be fun.
Oh yeah.
I think it's so much fun.
So it actually is going to be, and we're going to be opening up to the Creative Finance with Pace Morby Facebook group and the Sub 2 group.
Let's go.
We're gonna test that out. Just really try again. Our desire is always to serve more people. So we're gonna be. This is a small plug. If you want to join the Creative Finance with Pace Morby Facebook group to learn more about creative financing in real estate, this is the book that we're going to be going through. I think it's backwards, but the book is The Science of Getting Rich. I'm sorry, it's backwards.
The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Wattles. Literally one of my favorite books. That book had I credit that book with me having taken in about 6 figures last month. Not a brag, right? Like low-key a subtle flex though, because I never got to say that before, so I'm saying it. I just we were able to bring in 6 figures of tax-free money last week, and I accredit it to that book. I accredit the way of thinking, the way of things that are starting to come together in my life to that book, so you do not want to miss it. Elena, how the heck? Because I don't know the answer for this. How are we getting people into that Zoom? Do they have to pay to be there?
They have to. So I posted it in the Creative Finance with Pace Morby Facebook group and the Sub 2 group. So the Creative Finance with Pace Morby Facebook group is free. So go join that. Creative Finance with Pace Morby.
Oh, did you just say it's for free?
It's full free, free 99. Let me post that. So join that group because you're going to learn a ton of information about real estate, non-traditional real estate transactions. And yeah, we're going to start Andrea, to answer your question, we are going to start the book club tomorrow morning, Saturday, 9 a.m. Arizona time. So look out for the Zoom link if you're in Sub 2. It comes out in our emails, and I put it in the Facebook groups, but go check it out, please.
And my brother Alejandro Alvarez just jumped in and he says he loves that book. The book is fire. So it's going to be a good time tomorrow. Yo, Lynn does have that crispy caramel quality. crispy. Yeah, she's making me look like a sucker over here. But it's all right. I'll be back in Arizona next week. No, that's a lie. I'll be in Florida next week. So you guys will be looking at me from a hotel room with the same crappy camera. But I'll still show up. So tomorrow we're going to be there. The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Wattles. Fantastic book. If you've never read it, you're going to be a part of us going through it tomorrow. It's going to be an amazing time. We're going to be breaking it down and not just going through it to get through it, but we're going to be getting from it. So if anyone that's ever done book club with me, I'm all about the comprehension. We don't move on unless you understand. And trust me, this is a book you need to understand if your goal is to ultimately be the one. If your goal is to be the one in your family, this is it. So Elena already told you how to get into it. Go to the free Creative Finance group with Pace Morby. Go and sign up, be a part of that group. It's an amazing network to be plugged into. It's absolutely free, especially if you're in real estate investing. Go plug in. You should already be a part of that community. The Sub 2 community, you guys already know what time it is. We already know how we show up on a Saturday morning. The Morning Mindset community, you guys already know what time it is. We got access to the same link. And I just want to say again, Elena, thank you so much. I appreciate you. I am honored to be here sharing the stage with you. One day I will too have a crispy microphone and beautiful camera.
And camera.
There.
One day.
Until that day, I'm just gonna keep showing up. And
imperfect action. Yeah, you're
action.
Sarah. So for Sarah, and for anyone that can't find the link, feel free to DM me. But if you also go into the Creative Finance with Pace Morby Facebook group, just search my name and just type in my name and then type in book club. You should be able to see the Zoom link. But thank you everyone for sticking with us for 2 hours. Yeah, go ahead.
And once you found Elena's post, do us a favor, comment on it, right? Yeah. Just comment hey, excited to be in there tomorrow. That way we can get it bubbled back up to the top so other people
boost the algorithms
can also see it.
Yeah.
So I think it's about time because Elena's got young ones that she needs to get back home to.
Yeah.
And I got to go say hi to a friend while I'm here in New York. So everyone, I appreciate you all. I'm going to let Elena sign out in a second as well. But make sure you connect with us. If you're on the YouTube, do me a favor. Like, subscribe, comment, and share this out. Both of us are working our butts off and our faces off to grow our social media. So it would be a major, major help that if this resonates with you, if this sort of content resonates with you, just do me a favor, share it to at least 3 people who you think it would also resonate with. Don't just send it to 3 randoms. Send it to 3 people that you're like, you know what? Actually, my friend from work should really benefit from this. Joey would need to watch this. Send it out. You already see what the premise is. You see where our heart's at. You see where our mind's at. You see the sort of philosophy that we live by. Share it. Let's grow this community. Let's make this thing as awesome as possible. My name is Marlon Johnson at Mindset Marlon. Plug in. Elena, I'm going to let you sign out, and then I'm going to hit the button again so we can play our intro video again.
Oh, yes. Thank you, everyone, again, for sticking with us for 2 hours. If you want to get onto this podcast with us and be a guest and be vulnerable enough to get, again, this is free support, that Marlon and I would feel honored to interview you, to know your story, and to help extract some of your pain that we believe you can turn into a superpower. So please feel free to DM me. I am going to eventually create a sign-up link, but everything will be kind of housed in my Instagram. It's at Elena_method. And yeah, we look forward to seeing you guys every week. Thank you so much. And Marlon, it's always a pleasure to hang out with you and to talk intentionally about life. That's my word for you, intentional Marlon. So
I love it.